All right, babies, it's that time again. Oh, yeah. We are in Isaiah 22. And in Isaiah 22, we have the usual prophetic warning and promise of destruction because of disobedience. Only this time it's followed up with promises of blessings. To a different servant. So the way it reads to me is like God saying to Israel, you blew it. So I'm going to create a whole different dynasty that will be impossible to remove. And that sounds like Jesus to me. And in that sense, as we align ourselves with Him in faith, we rule with Him in His Spirit now and forever. We are that beloved entity of God's that replaces His original relationship with Israel. Oh yeah. That's how it sounds to me. Now, the thought comes to mind what about other religions? They love God, they believe in God, they trust God, but they don't have the context, historical context of Israel and then the ultimate fulfillment in Jesus. Such as Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims. I don't know. What do you think about that? I know we have passages in the Bible where there are lots of exclusive pronouncements that only in Jesus can you find God. I've often thought of it as God will work with you wherever you're at. But that Jesus is the ultimate. That's how I look at that. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because we're talking about historically the God of the universe aligning only with Israel. It just sounds inaccurate to me. However, having given us His dear Son, tortured for our sake so that we could be done with selfishness and put all of that to death as he did symbolically in his death, then we can have complete access to God. But just as a little homework assignment for you, take a listen to the album by George Harrison called Living in the Material World. That, to me, when you listen to that, you can't help but feel the intimate relationship George had with God. But in his concept, it was in a Hindu construct. But man, you listen to that and you're like, wow, I want to have a relationship with God like that. It's very lovely. It's very sweet. In fact, when I compare, Christian worship that's you could pull up on YouTube from these mega churches, I prefer George Harrison's Hindu relationship than stuff I see on YouTube. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about is people often see Christians on YouTube in mega churches, primarily. They often seem to be striving for something that is just out of reach. And if they do it just with enough passion and focus, they might move the hand of God. And personally, I just find that obnoxious. Because to me, that looks like a lack of faith. It's like, where are you standing, baby? Don't you know when Jesus was crucified, he said, "It is finished"? The work was done. It's just a matter of us accepting it and learning to walk in the faith that he gives us by his grace to become more like him. So what are you striving for? Now compare that to George Harrison's love letter to God in Living in the Material World album. And he sounds like he's coming from a place of knowledge and experience and wisdom and contentment. Now there are some things in there that show him, yearning for more. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's like how you do it. It's like you look so desperate. It's like, believe me, I understand. I've been going through some stuff lately where I was like that. But overall, I'm not usually like that. I'm usually just trusting God. Things, are not the way I want, but God's going to work it out. He's creating his character in me. You know me. That's usually how I am. So I'm just saying we shouldn't judge so quickly about people's experiences with God that aren't similar to our own. In fact, even in Christian circles, what do we have, like between 100 and 200 different Christian denominations? And a lot of them look with horror at other denominations because they are missing the point that only they have. That's obnoxious. That doesn't reflect the character of Jesus. So, I've heard it said that it might be Paul talking about us like looking into a mirror when we're worshiping, And I think, we become what we worship. And if you're worshiping a God that's saying, you're the good ones, everybody else is bad, then you're just inviting judgment to characterize your persona.